Good morning. Welcome to Coffee Talk Live. I'm Coach Connie Pastorius, showrunner here at the Strong as a Mother, Happy and Healthy Living Facebook group. This is the show where my guests and I explore what it means to live a sustainable, healthy life as moms, as women, for ourselves, in the home and in the community. Today, we are talking about communication skills, particularly with presentations. I am so excited to talk about this today for so many reasons, but do me a favor, if you're watching live, please comment with a 1 or a good morning. And if you're catching the replay, press the number 2 or just type replay. And either way, whether you're watching now or later, please, I want to hear your voice in this conversation. Feel free to chime in along the way, ask questions. This is live in our group. So if you want to contribute, please, I'm watching the conversation unfold. I want to hear what's going on, what your thoughts are in this conversation. So today, my guest is a solo mompreneur. She is a runner like me. She works for the City University of New York, or CUNY for people who don't live in New York City. Please welcome to my show, Fern Chan. Good morning, Fern.
Good morning, Connie. Thanks for having me. I'm so stoked to be here.
I'm so excited to have you now. This is my favorite time of year. Like Christmas is it's my happy place. Like I love being warm, but Christmas, it's like 2 shots of espresso, just extra this time of year. Are you a Christmas person?
I enjoy it. Yes. I didn't grow up celebrating Christmas, but I do enjoy just seeing the happiness on my kids' faces and just, the spirit. I'm into the holiday spirit. So it's all good. It's all good energy.
My neighbors are Australian. Well, actually on both sides. One of my neighbors are Jewish, so we get to celebrate Hanukkah and all of their holidays, and then they celebrate Christmas with us. But on the other side, my neighbors are Australian with Chinese heritage, so they didn't celebrate Christmas anyway like we did at all. And like their Christmases in Australia were super hot. So what we started to do was this tradition of I baked a ton of gingerbread cookies, and we would go over their house on Christmas Eve and decorate them because they never did that before.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it's crazy because it's like, oh, I thought this was just like a thing that everybody does on Christmas. But like after moving to Queens, one of the things I learned was like how very different people celebrate so much, like so many different holidays. And regardless, they're all great reasons to spend time with each other, which I think
it's common because I grew up in New Zealand, which is a neighbor to Australia. We're not the same. But Christmas was like a Christmas barbie, right? Christmas barbecue because it's so hot. So that's what we did. So there's no ham, there's no turkey. That's not the common thing. It's more like a Christmas barbecue. So lots of sausages and toast and bread and a very different kind of Christmas, but it's all good.
Do you still do anything like from your New Zealand upbringing, like while you're here?
We watch rugby. I mean, when the All Blacks play, I make sure I'm up at some ungodly hour of the morning trying to catch the live matches. So yeah, so that part is always, always keep an eye out when they're playing because it's always like national pride up there,
That's so funny. New Zealand, that's on my list of places to go. So we'll talk more about that later. So let's start off with the easy question. What's in your cup? I see you got
today. I got my little Java Jai from Dunkin' Donuts. I really should buy stocks in Dunkin' because America runs on Dunkin'. This household runs on Dunkin'. So I got myself my regular medium brew with oat milk latte, and my husband's a cold brew drinker with just cream.
Like all
any time of year. I know he drinks iced coffee any time of year. It could be 2 degrees outside and he still drink iced coffee.
Oh my gosh. I also thought that I should have bought stocks in Dunkin' Donuts like when I was like 8 years old and Dunkin' was like circling the drain because out of nowhere they just popped up like a daisy and became super popular again. But hindsight's 2020, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about Fern. Fern, tell us your little origin story, what you do, where you work. Tell us about your family, social security number. What else do we got time for? Just like
I know. Well, I work at John Jay College of Criminal Justice, and I'm the director of continuing and professional studies. So we actually do a lot of continuing education and professional development training for people who are already in the workforce. And because our target market is very niche, we work with people who are in the public safety domain, right? So think about your first responders. So we train a lot of law enforcement officers and fire safety personnel and people in security and EMT. So these are people who will most likely respond when you call 911. So that is my field of expertise. We do a lot of training for those people. So a lot of NYPD clientele. So knowing how to communicate with police officers can be very, very challenging, right? So how do you use those sort of skill sets as well? And I also go into the classroom to train. So I do a lot of training in that sense, and I do a lot of presentations, and I do a lot of talks at conferences and things like that. So, and it's through all those experiences, being in education for so long, and also then realizing there's a better way to do presentations. Because I will be very honest, I wrote this book partially because I sucked at presentations at the beginning. And I was suffering through death by PowerPoint, and then realizing, oh my God, I'm inflicting this on other people. I need to do a better job and then help other people be better communicators and just share their genius with the world. So that's the reason, one of the key things that drove me to write this book, to how to help people spread their genius and just get their message out and make it stick.
Yeah, and that's why I was so drawn to your book, and when I saw that you published it, and why I wanted to talk about it, because my generation, which is not far off. I mean, you and I are just a couple years difference in age, but those of us who grew up with every version of PowerPoint since like the first one, we only knew what we were all learning together. So I am guilty of being one of those people who put a ton of information on one slide and then just read from it, because I'm like, what else am I supposed to do? Like, how?
Well, we weren't given the tools to use it properly, right? So I think when people see PowerPoint, they go, oh, this is how you use it. They're basing it on a very bad example. And so it perpetuates. It's a vicious cycle, right? You see like a slide full of bullet points, and this is how you present. And then people think, oh, this is how I should do it. So it's a vicious cycle before you realize, like, this is not supposed to be a teleprompter. A PowerPoint is supposed to help you make your points powerfully. But you can't do it if they're reading off the slide and not listening to you.
Exactly. Now you do all this stuff with law enforcement, you do all these presentations, and one day you just had this free time with your, being a mom and staying fit, that you're like, what?
Yeah.
So
I know,
how
right?
did it come about?
So I think at the height of somebody hit about March. I started writing the book March this year, and we were still in lockdown and we're still like home. And I'm thinking to myself, I can do this. I can write this book, because I was, we're like heavy into Zoom, and I'm like, gosh, this it's got to be a better way. I have so many tips and tricks to share with people, but we cannot go through more of this if we're going to be stuck in Zoom land doing all of these virtual things. So it prompted me to say, hey, write this book, get it out in the world. And then, writing is a process that you're sitting down a lot and a lot of thinking. And I'm like, I got to do something to be more active. Why not run the New York City Marathon, right? I can do two things at once. Oh my God. Like mom brains are thinking, yes, we can do everything, right? We're so used to multitasking and figuring things out. So I said, okay, I'm going to write the book, and then I'm going to train for the marathon at the same time, because then all my sedentary work while I'm writing, I can then, put to good use when I'm running and training for the marathon. Of course, all of this would not be possible if I did not have my supportive husband. Who then said,
we'll talk about them later.
Yeah, we'll talk about it later. But
talk about us and how we managed to train for a marathon, because that's our origin story and how we met.
Right.
Because we are both women who apparently think that doing two crazy things at once is better than just doing one crazy thing at once.
Exactly.
So I also ran the New York City Marathon, which everybody knows by now, because I don't shut up about it. And
I was about to bring my medal in to show. We should have worn our medals.
I don't know why I've taken it off at this point. Like, I should just wear it all year. So I don't know about you, but like I was trying to do the 9+1 starting
Oh,
last March
mm,
when the United Half was canceled for the
yeah.
first time. That was like the first race that got canceled. And I was really sad for like a day. And then I heard that like everything got canceled. So I wanted to run the actual 50th. And then after lockdown happened and after seeing like what happened in Queens, what happened in New York, how it's coming back up, I just felt like this was the year that like I wanted to say like I ran this I ran this marathon the 50th year after COVID happened with the city
Yep.
coming back. Like I wanted it to be a bigger purpose than just me running. So I joined Team for
Mm,
Kids, organization
absolutely.
that we met in. So had you been in Team for Kids before this marathon?
I did. So 11 years ago, I wanted to run the marathon too, right? But I was 29. I was like, I can do this. And was I 29? Well, I was like, okay, no, I wasn't 29. What was I thinking? My math is a bit off. But I was thinking, yeah, I'm going to run the marathon. It was my 10th anniversary of living in New York City. That's what it was. And it prompted me to say, I've lived here for 10 years. I've been watching this marathon 10 years. I'm going to do it. So I joined Team for Kids back then when I was single, no kids, could still party till 2 a.m. and then get up and do my 7 o'clock morning run. Gone are those days. So for me now, it's like, okay, it like you was the 50th anniversary and coming out of COVID, this is a time to celebrate life, right? Things were starting to opening up again. We need to do something to just be so grateful that we have our health, we have our mobility. Let's motivate each other and run for this amazing cause to just show that New York City can be this amazing place that people triumph over so much adversity and the resilience for us to run 26.2 miles and all the 20 weeks of training before that, right? So it's not just the end point, it's everything we put into it to get to the start line and to see it to the end.
Yeah, it was such a great experience,
It
and I'm
was.
so glad that you are also not a super fast runner, or else we might not have even met. Because
Oh no,
I
I'm,
was in
I'm
the 11:30-ish group. You were in the 12. Yeah.
12. Yep. I like my slow poke group. we're chatting about life and
Yeah.
it's great. We're not dying and running out of breath because we're still chatting. So it's
It,
such a fun experience.
it was fun, and I think as a mom, it was it was a really special experience too, because we also were showing our kids like
Yes.
our commitments and showing up for our commitments and the effect of really dedicating ourselves for 20 weeks to something that was really important to us outside of our family. Did you have any like special like mom moments with your kids throughout training or at the marathon that you felt like, oh my God, this was like extra special because I'm a mom?
So I told my kids I was running it very early on, and they actually watched the marathon during the Olympics, right? So they saw the runners run, and I said, "Oh, mommy's gonna be running the marathon." And so she was like, "Oh, mommy, you're gonna get a medal?" I said, "Yeah, everybody who finishes get a medal." So so she had the idea of running this race. And then there was a lot of mornings that she didn't see me, right? Both kids, we have to sacrifice that time, and so I would wake up so early, come back, and in the afternoon, and they still be in their pajamas. but happy that I'm home. But what's really special, my husband managed to find a live stream of the marathon on the day, and it just caught me turning on 59th Street into the park at Columbus Circle. And my kids got to see me on the big TV. And I didn't know this, but my daughter had pom pom. She's cheering me on from the couch. And I didn't see the video until I came home, but that was so special, right? Because I really didn't expect them to come out. I've got a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old. God forbid they have to go pee. My husband will be scrambling trying to find a bathroom. So was not expecting them to come out. But just seeing her cheering mommy on, that was like, oh, and this is why we do it, right? We fundraise for the kids to also show them like healthy living. And this is why we do it. It's for the kids, it's for you. And to show you that mommy can do these things.
Yeah, our life isn't over after we have kids.
Oh.
Um, I live like a mile away from the Queensboro Bridge in Queens.
Mm.
Really convenient for when I want to just get like a quick hill
Mm-hmm.
run. So I ran Queens up and down a lot
Wow.
during training. I think that was really helpful. But my husband, we were talking. I'll bring back the husbands for a second. My husband managed to bring her and my mom to Queensboro like Queensboro
Right.
Plaza to see me and to just be able to see her and hug her, regardless if she actually knew what was going on. Like that like gave me just the energy of like 10 gels, 10 cups of coffee. Like
Right.
it filled my heart. I was just so happy. And then I had got grandstand tickets too. So they managed to make their way to the grandstand to see me cross the finish line and to be able to share that experience, like not just with the other Team for Kids runners, but just have
Yeah.
my family there made it feel so special. And knowing that since me and my husband agreed that I could do this training, he took
Yep.
this extra load of managing the kids on Saturday mornings, on Wednesday nights.
Yep.
But he also got to have this extra special daddy daughter time while I was
Yeah.
training. So even though it was a little bit extra work on his part, we're very grateful for having this great relationship. But he also got to have this extra time with her that normally would have just been like for us or just sitting around the house. So I was really happy that it kind of worked out for everybody. I think I'm going to get him an extra nice Christmas present this year because he
Oh,
looked just as tired as I was by the end.
yeah. I actually forgot our wedding anniversary because we were in the the crux of all the training. Oh, yeah, it was a card on my bedstand one night. I'm like, what's this card for?
Oh,
Connie, I am not wife of the year, but I made up for it, right?
what?
So that's what happens. Yeah.
How many years?
7.
7 years.
Yeah.
That's the year that you forget. Like, there's tin, there's
Yeah.
diamonds, there's paper. Like the 7th is the one that doesn't exist, so you're fine.
Yeah. No, he can stay. I'm keeping him.
Okay. So that was our origin story and our message to moms everywhere that like you can freaking run a marathon
You
if you
can.
want. And it's such a great, exhausting, wonderful, powerful, magical experience. And if you're
We
crazy,
No, for sure, right? Think of it this way, right? We carry children for close to 10. They don't tell you it's like 10 months. It's not 9 months. They lie. Just think about the stamina it takes to create life within us, right? We can do 26.2 miles. We don't have to break any records. We have it in us to dig deep and get to the end. So
yeah. And like I think one of the things that I work with my clients, my coaching clients on a lot is they come to me with this feeling of not feeling in control of their body anymore. We gave our body away to creating life, in which
yeah,
case like we have zero control over, and to be able to commit and train for something as big as a marathon, it's such a rewarding feeling to be like, okay, this is my body again, this is what it can do.
yeah,
I was able to like reclaim this thing for myself, which we all deserve, to feel like we
absolutely.
didn't sacrifice all of this and that kind of be the end of it. So I think I think it's a really cool experience. But let's talk about your book, because
Sure.
just as complicatedly difficult and wonderful as running a marathon, you wrote a book during lockdown and published it and have these really great points. So let's get into it. Tell us your title, tell us what it's about, and let's go into some of the ways that you
Sure. So the
with your
title of the book
presentation.
is How to Not Suck at Presentations.
Love it.
Transform your presentation skills from boring to badass, right? So
Love
I
it.
wrote this, it's like my third child. It was like birthing my third child. Going into like the creative process and then all those sort of mind mapping and editing and all of that. But so yeah, so the book is really very helpful in just giving you tips and things to be clear with your communication, being able to also hold your audience, right? Know what you're speaking about and who you're speaking it to. I think people make the mistake of including too much information because they want to think, oh, I'm going to give them so much value, but people have limited capacity of focus and attention. So you need to get their attention from the beginning, and you need to do it in a way that will capture their imaginations, right? And bullet points, unfortunately, don't do it. They're not going to be wanting to read lines and lines of script, which is what we're used to seeing. So this is one of the reasons too. And because I do speak at a lot of conferences, I sometimes sort of see like, wow, there's a lot of conference speakers here who are doing the same thing. It's like they have to be better at this because they have great ideas and great concepts to share, but people have forgotten what they said already because it's just too much information. So it's like a waste. So, and we as women, mothers, right, we have so much wealth of knowledge to share with people. And I just think like, if you ever have to get up in public and share your point of view or have to use a presentation to do so, this book will help you get your message across in a way that will be easy. It's not going to be like too much, overwhelm, but there's a process, right? It's like telling a story. And one of the ways that I like to tell people, one of the tips that I give them is like, tell a story, use images to tell stories. So as moms, we know we do story time with our children. And I always wonder, how is it that my kids know what's happening in this book? They can't read, but they sort of follow along, right? Because they're looking at the pictures and the pictures are telling the story. So like I've read like The Very Hungry Caterpillar. I'm sure you have to multiple times. And it's like they almost can read along with me. I'm like, but you can't, you're already two, but the pictures are telling the story. So as adults, our brains are kind of still operating the same way. So we can use those visuals to create that amazing impact, right? Let the picture tell the story, show the picture, and then talk about it. Don't put a gazillion bullet points because then once they start reading, they won't be listening to you anymore.
Right. So your first point is, instead of bullet pointing all of your notes and everything that you want to say, choose a picture that you feel captures the point that you're trying to make.
Yes, like the concept of the idea, right? Because you can always give them a handout. Give them the handout afterwards, right? You want them to listen to what you have to say. So if you put up a picture that evokes some emotion, right? Get them to think about like, oh, this is a really interesting image, or like, oh, what's this trying to tell me? So you want to also use images that are evocative, but make sure it arouses the senses, right? People don't remember what you particularly say, but they might remember how you make them feel, right? So if they feel like, oh, just like you see like a juicy burger on a picture of a juicy burger, it's like, oh God, I'm hungry, right? Or maybe you're not hungry because you're vegan, whatever it is, but there's some emotion that you've just aroused in them and go, I'm attaching this feeling and picture, and that gets you your long-term memory. So they're going to remember that as opposed to just lines of bullet points and script. I'm like, what am I reading? So.
Right. And this is, this touches on how people absorb information, right? I'm a fitness coach. I teach yoga, I teach just about everything, but it was important for me to learn and understand that people absorb information differently. There's visual learners, auditory learners, and kinesthetic learners. So people either learn by seeing, by hearing, or by repeating the movement and doing. And this helps. I think this helps people who need that kinesthetic, that creating a sense in their bodies, or with with the visual images. Reading puts me to sleep. I can't read whenever unless I'm trying to go to bed. I can't read a book. It's awful for studying, but reading just puts me in that really sleepy mode. So if I'm reading a presentation and that's just line after line, I am not retaining that information. And like you were saying, as moms, as women, this is useful information regardless on whether you present to your job or not, because it's important for us to feel heard and understood. So we're not going to necessarily create PowerPoints for our husbands when we feel like they're not paying attention or understanding us, but you might have something that you need to share at a parent-teacher conference, or your kid might be doing presentations in school and he needs help. So this is very applicable, regardless of what you do. And I think the idea of being heard and understood can be so valuable. So aside from your visual tip, tell us a little bit more about what people get wrong and what you think they should be doing instead.
So I think people get wrong is they give too much information. That's the key, right? They don't probably think, how do I show what I need to in this short amount of time? The other thing people don't do the most is rehearse it. They don't time themselves because they think, oh, I know it, so I'm just going to speak off the cuff and just ad-lib it, right? No, don't do that, because you don't realize what words come into your speech. Like, I know myself, I'm an ummer. I say a lot, so I have to mind myself. You're an or an r. You have to go, ooh, where are those moments that I interject those little, words, filler words, and then where do I take that conscious effort to not say those words and have those things, you know, so you have to record yourself and know what you're going to say. So I think when people don't realize, sometimes words can trip you up. If you say things in your mind and don't actually say it out loud, you know, your tongue gets a little tied sometimes. So one of the words that is a lot to say is deliverability. So if you don't say deliverability out loud, you might trip up on your tongue if you are trying to deliver a speech or deliver something, and then you have to say the word deliverability, and then that could happen, right? So, but it's okay if you're presenting and you make a little stumble, just own it. People will applaud you because it takes a lot of courage to stand up in front of people and speak in public. And I think for those who are not willing to do so, they will say, well, better you than me, and I applaud you because I probably would not have been able to recover from that. So even if you make a mistake, it's okay. You know, make friends with your nerves. I like to say, like, whatever nervous energy that you have is all your genius just waiting to get out into the world, right? So channel that. This is your genius, your value that you are sharing with the world, and your experience is something that is unique to you that can add value that somebody else can experience from and say, wow, I didn't see it from this perspective. How meaningful is that?
Yeah. And so in your book, I want to talk about what's in your book that you've created as kind of a way to remember how to do this. Let's talk about the C3PO chapter and what that
Yes. So I have a formula for you to do a presentation, right? I call it the C3PO formula. So if you're a Star Wars fan, which I am, you'll know like C3PO is like the very pedantic cyborg, human relation cyborg, right? But I also use it as an acronym. So C means clarity, and the 3P stand for purpose. So what is the purpose of your presentation? Right? Make sure you know why you're speaking. And then the second P is the people. Who is your target audience? Because you already have an intended audience for this. So they already have a captive audience, but you need to make sure that you understand these people, their needs, their pain points, how you're going to address them so that they understand like, oh, they're speaking to me, right? So know your audience. And my third piece, what I call like the place sort of placement, right? Are you doing this virtually? Are you doing this in person? So how will that affect your deliverability? And what time are you speaking in? What time frame have you been given? Have you been given a 1 hour slot, a 30-minute slot? Then you know how much time you have to give your presentation in and don't go over, right? I like to also say that people have this much capacity. If this is how much attention span that they have, giving them a whole keg of coffee, all that extra juju is going to fall over and they're not going to retain any more than what this cup can hold. So do not let that cup run us over. And so I use C3PO to make sure that you have clarity on your purpose, your people, and your placement, and only give them what they need to know. And if you want to, you can read a free chapter from my website, and I can give you that information later if you want to get to that point later. But yes, or you can get the book.
I love acronyms, and I love when you use coffee as examples because that is the language that I understand. So I love the idea of just making sure the information that you have fits in the size cup that you have been given to share it with. Because even though like I agree, I think there's some situations where we feel like we have to show all of our intellect or show how smart we are, or show everything that we know. But unfortunately, if you plan on sharing all that information, you're either going to be a jerk for spending too much time, or you're not going to get to all the important information because you've only touched on a really short subject. And that's a really great example, or like comparing to children's books, right? The Very Hungry Caterpillar, or Chicka Chicka Boom Boom. Like those books they tell a story, but they tell it in a very short, condensed, very few sentences for the audience. The kids, they can't learn the origin of where the caterpillar is from, the entire process of becoming a butterfly, and all that science stuff. They can't absorb it. They're not going to understand it. But if we're talking about a biology class, then that's completely different. That was me trying to just draw a comparison to
I always think of the user experience, right? So think about who your audience is and what is it that you want them to experience. So if you put yourself in your audience seat and think, okay, if I have to sit through this presentation, what do I want to experience? And I think that's always a good way to shift that perspective from like, okay, from my knowledge point of view, what can I share with these people who may not know much or know very little, so that they can just be engaged enough, right? Well, oh, that's really cool, without going, that's too much information and overwhelm. So it's okay to withhold some information back. They'll ask you to come back and speak again, right? So think of it that way, right? Give them a little bit so they want more later.
Yes. Okay, so you mentioned two really cool things. First of all, your free chapter of the C3PO chapter is available on
my website. So you can go to www.fernchan.com. So Fern like the leaf, Chan like Jackie, just like it sounds, .com. And you have the option to get the free chapter. And then you can also hit the buy button and get the book. So you can get the the hard copy, paperback copy. It's really cool. It's got lots of pictures, and you can see like examples of like what it should look like. So it's a really quick read. Or you can get it as an ebook and get it instantly and read through that too. And then I'm working on the Audible. So if you want to hear me narrate some of this stuff,
I would love to hear you narrate your book. You're just a friggin' delight to talk with. And so I love giving things away. If you are watching this show, I would love to give away a copy of your book. So if anybody who's watching in the Strong as a Mother group, if they want a copy, comment with the word PowerPoint, and I will draw a winner by the end of the week, and I will send a copy directly to you. So, Fern, if there's anything else that you think that mom should know about your book, about presenting, is there any final words or just direct call to action regarding?
Oh yeah, the shameless plug, right? Get the book. Get the book, read it, write a review, because that would be so awesome to just hear your feedback. But also, don't be afraid to share your genius. We have so much wealth of knowledge, right? And I think sometimes we're afraid to let our voice shine. And I'm a bit of a shameless ham, so I want to say, do not be shy. Be bold, be loud, be proud, step up to the plate and share with the world what you know, because it is of value.
I love it. Oh my gosh. I got chills. You speak my language, Fern. I love your words of empowerment and love. And I think anybody who knows anybody who gives presentations, this would be a great holiday gift. This would be just a great
stocking stuffer.
It is awesome. So let's support our local moms and our mompreneurs, and hopefully we'll see you guys either doing great presentations or running marathons or just drinking coffee and feeling confident.
All of the above.
All of the above. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Fern. Anyone who is watching again, either on the live video or on the replay later, please let us know your thoughts. We're going to post all the contact information for Fern. She is in the mom group now. If you have questions or want to chat more with her, you're welcome to tag her or go ahead and
please, if you're working on a presentation, let me know. I've got tips and tricks. I can help you. Happy to help you, give you some feedback, even reach out.
So in classic Connie style, thank you everyone. I can't wait to talk to you again. Fern, I can't wait to see you again on the roads running somewhere for some cause, because we
Ted Corbett on Saturday.
We'll see.
Yeah, I know. 15K. I'm not sure what I've signed up for. Haven't run into the marathon. I'm like, yeah, we're gonna go 15K. I'm like, oh.
The turkey trot was literally a trot. It was just a very slow. Well, I did a sub 30-minute 5K, so I was happy.
Good for you.
It felt hard. Okay. All right, everybody. Cheers, Fern, to a great conversation. Please come back. Please talk to us again about everything that you know. You're such a delight. And everybody watching, stay strong, stay caffeinated, and I'll see you in the group. Have a great week, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for having me, Connie.
Take care.